Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Insight to Action, where I bring in some industry professionals. They're going to share their insight with you, the college student, in hopes that you can take some action on it. Today, I'm joined by Chris Almendarez. Hopefully I've said it correctly. We do aim for perfection. Anyway, he is the president of the Round Rock Express. And Chris, I'm going to have you introduce yourself in terms of your title, what you do, how long you've been doing it, maybe just a quick snapshot of your day-to-day, if there is such a thing. So Chris, first of all, thanks for taking the time. And now that I've asked you three straight questions out of the chute.
Well, Matt, thanks for having me. Of course, we love doing things like this and kind of sharing the knowledge that we have. Like you said, my name is Chris Almendarez. You said it right. I'm the team president for the Round Rock Express. We're the AAA baseball affiliate for the Houston Astros. And so this is my 5th year as team president, my 11th year with the team. I've kind of worked my way up. I came in as a senior account executive, was promoted to a director about 6 months into my time at the Express. And then a couple years later to assistant GM to GM. And then in 2015, October 2015, I was promoted to team president. So I've got a phenomenal staff that makes me look good. And so, we try our best to bring the game of baseball to folks in Central Texas. And, unfortunately, 2020, like everybody else, our industry has been hit hard. But look, we're confident it's going to bounce back, and really we've pivoted a lot and become a concert company overnight. So we're just kind of trying to figure out, the right mix to get us to the 21 season.
Got it. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to pick up on right away. Number one is, you've started in and worked your way up. And the other thing you mentioned is, hey, look, I've got a great staff. I want to just kind of pick up on those two things. But let's just talk about yourself and maybe your career evolution. Was there a point, Chris, where it maybe something just dawned on you, a light bulb went off, or perhaps it was just a series of events that made you realize the ability to communicate clearly, confidently to a wide variety of people is going to be an asset? Is there any one experience, or was it just something over time that came to be clear to you?
I think it was over time. If you actually look at my work history, I actually started, I played college baseball for the University of Houston. And when I graduated, I was married and really just looking for that job out of college. And I actually got into pharmaceutical sales. I was actually a pharmaceutical rep, specialty rep for almost 10 years with a couple of different companies. By the grace of God and divine intervention, I had a chance. We moved to Round Rock in 2000, and I met Reed Ryan in 2001, and we became friends. My son Luke and his son Jackson were actually we coached youth baseball together, and just kind of knowing those guys. And his dad Nolan, of course, was my childhood idol. Grew up in the Houston area, and we were coaching, and our families kind of got close. We would do the different dinners after the games, and our just kind of spent some time together. And an opportunity came for me to get in the game of baseball. And as a kid, look, we all grew up wanting to be a Major League Baseball player, and to work in the baseball every single day. I had that opportunity. I remember one of my mentors was actually our priest from my back home from Humble, Texas. And I was talking to him, and I was going to take this job. And I had some job offers with other pharmaceutical companies, and the money was great. And it was kind of it was a boiler room type job in that industry at the time, and had a chance to get in the baseball. And I said, you know what? Let's try it, and kind of went on faith. And it's one of the best career moves I've ever made. And the thing that I always tell young kids is get in, be the guy that shows up early and stays late. And, I might not be the smartest guy. I've got an unbelievable general manager, Tim Jackson, on our staff, our marketing, senior vice president of marketing, Laura Fergoso. I mean, we've got some great people. Stu Scally's my assistant GM. And, they're the folks that make us go, day in and day out. And, looking from a day to day, I'm real big picture and working with our sponsors and trying to drive revenue, but I've got some great folks that kind of make the wheel turn as far as the things that they're specific to do. We've got some meetings today, just kind of gearing up for a concert that's coming up next week. We're working, on what's the 2021 season going to look like, and kind of getting that sales process going. And we've got a call this afternoon or a meeting about the way that we report our ticket taxes to minor league and Major League Baseball. So the one great thing is every day I step in this role, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's one of those things. And especially in 2020, it's like we've been doing concerts. We just announced that we're going to host the band Midland on December 5th. And that press release came out this morning. And some of my friends are already asking me about that. We're going to do bull riding on November 13th and 14th here at Dell Diamond. So if it's something we can try to generate revenue and, safely social distance, we're going to try it.
Excellent. That was a lot of info, and I want to again. When I tried my best to listen, I want to pick up on some things that almost will dovetail into the next segment. I really want to talk a little bit about, and you mentioned it. Hey, when you were early on, you were going to who was in your inner circle at that time. Hey, is this the right move for me? I think you were talking about getting into the pharmaceutical. Just briefly, if you can, or if you'd like to elaborate, that's fine too. Networking is such a it's been a buzzword for many years. Networking when you were coming up the ranks, and myself, is perhaps maybe a little bit different than what we see and what you see in today's college students. Just two-part question. What networking activities and how did you separate yourself, and what did you find beneficial when you networked versus what do you see working and or not working for today's students?
First, look, I think that networking's, I think we're called to be, we're in the relationship business, whatever you're doing. And so we're in the people business. So getting a chance to know people, and, growing up, I had some great mentors and playing college baseball with my coaches, and, in college, trying to get into different activities, have some things that could be put on your resume. I was the JUCO president at Howard Junior College, and got a chance to be a part of the Big Spring Chamber of Commerce out in Howard County. And so just the fact of putting myself in some uncomfortable positions very young, got me, gave me some experience to think outside the box and just get a chance to go and network. I remember walking into one of the first Chamber of Commerce meetings and walking in, and I was like a college student, but just, not afraid to go shake people's hands and introduce myself and let them know. And, I think it's all part of our story. So the earlier that folks can kind of get involved and kind of grow their network, you never know when it's going to come back and help you. My father-in-law, who's probably one of the smartest men in the world, a couple of years later, when I got married, was, one of the things he told me was, don't piss the alligators off until you get across the river. And that's always stuck in my mind. And really what it was I interviewed and had a job with a company called Prime Equipment out of college. And it was selling, backhoes and heavy duty equipment, but I really wanted to get into pharmaceuticals. And the guy that hired me with Prime Equipment was a family friend. I went to school with his daughter, and he gave me this opportunity, but I really wanted to do something else. It bought me some time, and I ended up getting the job. The pharmaceutical company hired me, but having to go back and have that tough conversation with Mr. Post. But I remember talking to my father-in-law, and he said, look, you're going to have that conversation, but you got to make sure you got the other job first. And it goes back to not pissing the alligators off until I got across the river. And, I went in there and I just told Mr. Post, I was honest and said, look, I really appreciate the opportunity, but really long-term, what I want to do is kind of get in this pharmaceutical world. And so I did that. One of the things I think in the day and age of social media, I think a lot of kids are using that platform good. I think a lot of them are using it bad. LinkedIn's one that, how we connected, there's certain ways I think people can do it. I think it's got to be genuine. I think just sending a random email with somebody you don't know, but having a connection. A lot of times, people say they want to get into minor league baseball, and they reach out to me, and they get here, and the first thing I ask them, if they're in this area, well, have you been out to a Round Rock Express game? And they're like, well, no. So that's telling me you're not really interested in getting minor league baseball. Now, if you're somebody that says, man, I grew up and I've been coming and I had a chance to meet you. What I love are those kids that are in high school that kind of think they want to get into sports, and they're here and they're trying to get on. They're working in the parking lot, or they're working in our fun zone, or being an usher, and we develop a relationship, and then we get a chance to mentor them as they're in high school, and then they go off to college, and we're talking about what college they're going to go to, and then they graduate and come back and want to work for us. I had a young lady that came on board a couple of years ago, and she's going to graduate now, and unfortunately we don't have a spot for her, but I'm like, Haley, you're somebody the kind of person we would look for in a normal year. Hold tight. If you get something, let's circle back and revisit when we're ready.
Yeah, you mentioned some things about social media, and it kind of brings me right in. It's almost you reading my questions, but they're really just in my head. I don't have any scripted questions, but I want to make sure I'm listening to you, because I think there's some insight you can bring. And look, today's college students have it a little bit different. And you said it can be a powerful resource, meaning social media, and how you can create your brand digitally on LinkedIn, for example. And maybe there's some speed bumps that today's students might go through there as well. What if someone's reaching out to you? Maybe they're just reaching out to you direct. You're the top person within the organization, and they've got the guts, if they will, to reach out to you. What captures your attention just over email first, or if that's the mode of communication, or maybe they call you? What jumps out? What's going to capture your attention?
So when I look at my own personal social media, I've got a 24-year-old son and a 19-year-old son. One actually, Chase works for us and played college baseball and came back. Of course, had some institutional knowledge and made a great a great hire for my general manager to oversee our amateur baseball. My younger son, Luke's a Division I baseball player at the University of Houston. And, the thing you kind of teaching them about what they post and what they don't post on social media. Twitter is really the thing that I use to get my information, as far as just news, things that are just kind of, quick news, things that hit. Quick story. Last Friday, University of Houston there was a Kendall Rogers with D1 baseball was watching their game, and one of the kids broke his legs, who's my son's roommate. And that's how I saw it. I mean, that's how quick that information came. I saw it on Twitter, and I called the guy, Ray's dad, and next thing you know, that's how quick things can happen. So publicly, Twitter's probably the thing I like more than anything. And I like when people reach out to me on that, they can kind of see the things that I post are more business appropriate. My faith is something big too, and it's something I never shied away from. When you look at my Facebook, a lot of that's personal and just friend things and friend family information. Instagram, honestly, I got onto that early on just because I wanted to see what my boys were posting. But it seems like Twitter one that's more beneficial, in LinkedIn, that just from a business standpoint, going, hey, look, if somebody DM me, sends me a direct message and has a question, I always jump in. The thing that I always want to do is, if somebody reaches out to me, typically on one of those platforms, I'm going to give them my email address and say, hey, shoot me an email and let's talk about it. Email is something I'm on every single day, and if I get an email, it's I usually try to use my Fridays and my Mondays to go through emails and go back through. I don't like sending emails on a Friday afternoon. Sometimes I think they get lost. Monday mornings, I want to kind of set my week up and go, okay, look, let's dive into what emails did I miss, what I need to catch up on, and then plan my week. So typically an email is probably the best way to get me. And, look, I want to know, what drives them. I want to know their story. And I think we all have a story, Matt. And that's the thing that, are we going to connect? Are they going to be a good fit for us? Or and look, the other thing is saying sometimes it's probably not a fit for somebody.
Absolutely. And I'm agreeing completely about everyone's got a story to share. And that's a big piece of kind of what I do at Talk Shop, specific to not my high school program, but my college student program. It's all about how can you differentiate yourself as getting career ready, ultimately. And a big piece is, how do you share your unique vision, your story? How do you articulate that? Now that's needed more than ever as a perhaps differentiator, right? Because I think, in my personal opinion, I want to ask you for yours. Creating a Twitter profile or getting on LinkedIn, I want to say that's the easy part, because almost anyone can do that. You can create that digital brand. But for me, if the live in-person brand doesn't match up to what I'm seeing on paper, that's a little red flag that goes up. Do you agree or do you disagree with that?
No, I totally agree. And I think for me, one of the things I've always tried to be is, what you see is what you get. What you see on Twitter and the human that you're going to see when you meet me and shake my hand is going to be the same person. There's not going to be any difference. One of the things I love is, we were out to dinner on Friday night, and somebody mentioned, hey, I saw your post about your outfit that you wore for the little girl's birthday party, and that's Chris. That's the person I love, and sometimes seeing the feedback, that the comments that people make, that's Chris, and that's the Chris that I want them to know. The tough part is if you put something out there that really doesn't, connect with who your core person is. I think that's when there's a disconnect. And one of the things that we do when we go to make a hire, we're looking at their Facebook, we're looking at their Twitter, we're looking at all their social media platforms to go, look, is this somebody that says, when they walk in my office, are they the same person that they're posting whatever they're posting? And is it going to be a good representation of the Round Rock Express and the Noah and Ryan family of what we represent?
No, absolutely. And I think that right there is a huge, huge component. I think a lot of maybe students just aren't aware that 9 out of 10 hiring managers are going to go there first and see what's out there before they make a decision to even bring that person in. What inspires you? Let's just role play real quick. Hypothetical, someone's gotten to the point where they're in your office and they've got that shot with you, right? There is the old expression of, look, you've got that one chance to make a good first impression. Talk Shop is to get prepared for that first impression. What inspires you when someone's there and they've got the chance to you face to face? What inspires you?
One of the things I think is that I like to see is the character come out. And look, we were talking about this the other day. Your true character during adversity is going to tell you who that person is. And look, we've all gone through all kinds of adversity in 2020, and kids that are graduating, whether it be from high school or college in 2020, are going to have a story to tell. What did you do during this COVID, the pandemic, the shutdown, when you had time off? And that's one of the things, as a father, I'm continuing to talk to my 19-year-old. What are you doing every day to make, you want to be a Major League Baseball player. What are you doing every single day, to get better? Is it, are you working out? Are you doing the things you need to be doing? And Luke's a kid that needs structure in his life, and they're doing virtual college at University of Houston, but he's thank goodness they're able to work out every single day. And what are you doing to get better? And when you get to our age, Matt, one of the things I always talk about is what your why is. And look, my personal story, losing my wife, 4 years ago to a brain tumor, that kind of shaped a little bit of how I see things. I was, unfortunately, when I was 21, in college, my father was killed in a car wreck, but it happened to be the first day that it was the first date of my wife, Jana, my future wife, our first date we ever had. And look, she came into my life when I needed her, and she was my rock for 22 years. And then we dealt with, a brain tumor and the going through that. She fought for 11 months, but look, that's my story. And that's something I don't shy away from. And, we're all going to go through adversity, and my kids losing their mom at a young age. Luke was 14 years old when she got diagnosed, and 15 when she passed. And that's going to be something that's going to help. It's not going to define him, but it's going to create the person that he is. And so when somebody walks into my office, what is that story? Tell me something about you that does differentiate yourself. Somebody that lost their mom at 15 years old, and they're going to college and got a college scholarship. I mean, that's what I like to hear. Don't come in and say, well, I've never worked, and my dad paid, my dad pays for all my stuff, and blah, 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 blah. Because that's not a kid that I'm going to look at to say, what makes you different? You got to show them, you got to prove something. And look, there are kids that we get, interns all the time, friends of our friends that, are good kids. But I think every kid that walks in, we're going to look at something and go, look, how are you differentiating yourself? And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check their social media.
First of all, I wanted to say I appreciate you sharing. Everyone's got their story. Thank you for sharing just a little bit of yours. And being vulnerable is not easy for a lot of people. And I wanted to say thanks for sharing that. I wanted to just do kind of rapid fire, if you don't mind, just gut reaction to the following. Look, your inbox is probably stuffed to the gills, like a lot of people that are in a position like yourself. Quick reaction, just yes or no, how you particularly respond to someone picking up the phone and trying to get to you. Just yay, resonate with you, or no?
No, I want to get an email first.
Email first. What about if someone approaches you either before a phone call, networking event, or just they've met you somehow? What are your quick thoughts on having them send a letter? Thank you letter, anything but going through the U.S. mail. Resonate with you? Not.
I love it. I love it. I love meeting somebody, and I love getting mail and opening it up. I'm old school.
Quick reaction to this. What if someone's in your office and says, you know what, I just love baseball. I'll do whatever it takes. Quick thoughts on that.
I'm going to look out my window and see if my ground crew's doing something, and say, run down there and help those guys out, see if they need anything. And by that interaction, if they do it, we'll see what we can find.
I joke about that, but it happens a lot. And I'm sure you've had it umpteen times. And myself and my own sports backgrounds, I hear that. And I said, look, there are going to be a mixed bag. People will love that hustle attitude, if you will, but also others may not. If you're not at least giving them some idea of what your interests are, it may not just have to be one interest, then it may not resonate with them. So,
look, and I said this Matt earlier, look, we're in the people business, and
right.
What we talk about is, and especially in 2020, we've had to pivot. Somebody might have came on to work in our PR department, or they might work on a graphic designer, but we've had to, 3 weeks ago, I'm out there, my general manager and I out there putting mulch out in the front stadium to make it look well, because we went from, 40% of our staff, we had to let go back in late May, and we're having to pick up all the pieces. My assistant GM led the painting crew to get ready for the season, just in case we were going to have a season. And, those are the type of, the employees that we're looking for to go, look, no matter what, we're going to jump in and get the job done. We've had to do a lot of concerts here these last couple of months, and, we're the guys setting it up. We're the guys that are, I was working the parking lot, getting cars directed to come in, that kind of stuff. So we're going to look for people that are just not afraid to roll their sleeves up and jump in and get the job done.
Last question, probably a little bit tough of a question, but I like to ask it anyway. If you could give yourself some advice, give your 20-year-old self some advice, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I think
as it relates to career readiness, if you will.
Well, one, I was really fortunate to have some great mentors, and I think if I could give myself, I would say, look, those folks that came into my life to really take to heart what they were saying at an earlier age. In high school, I think we kind of all feel that we're invincible, and I want to be a Major League Baseball player, and that's all I'm doing, and I was kind of dead set. But I got to college, and my second year of college, I hurt my ankle, and it put me on the sidelines for a bit. But I got a chance to talk with he was our family doctor, and he asked me, what are you going to do if baseball doesn't work out? And at that point, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm going to be, the Giants were out there looking at me last week, and I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player. Look, it didn't happen. I was he's the one that actually talked to me about being a pharmaceutical rep early on. And that kind of stuck in my mind of, hey, let's do this. And the chance to kind of get out every single day and just go visit with people. And, my schooling, my background, I was a mass communications was my degree, and with an emphasis in public relations. And, speech communication was a big deal, and just making sure you communicate with folks. And I think even to this day right now, one of the things of my general manager that would talk about is I'm really big on our culture and what we do here. And look, it's been a tough 7 months for us, and walking with a smile on your face and going, look, guys, we're still getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, and we're trying to pivot, and I know you didn't sign up for this, but there's not many other things that are out there right now. So let's do the best we can. Let's get through the holidays, and come January, hopefully we're talking about the 21 season and opening day, and we're geared up to play baseball in April of 2021. And what are we doing, and how are we prepared to do that? And so, I think just, again, listening to those mentors early on, and some of us have been through the ringer, have some good knowledge to pass on and give, probably like to call them pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Aligning yourself with a good inner circle, advisory circle, getting a mentor. That's an in-depth question. Well, how do you even get a mentor? But I think those things just happen organically. I'm not sure if you agree or disagree with that, but once that does come your way, for the college students, grab onto it, because you're right. You can learn a lot from someone that's
well, and look, and I think it's flattering sometimes when people do reach out and say, hey, look, would you mind mentoring me or helping somebody out? Because look, somebody helped us out along the way, and that's one thing that I've been very good at to in my life. I had a junior varsity football coach that way back when I was 15 years old, he believed in me. He let me call the plays, and I remember we were playing a football game, and I looked at him. He'd usually give all these different signs, and he was doing this. And I was like, what does that mean? He's, I want you to call the play. And at 15 years, he believed me enough to call the play. And I called him a couple of months ago when this pandemic started, and just said, Coach Masters, I want to thank you for believing in me, because that was the first time in my life that, somebody else said, we're going to let you have the reins and make the decision. And, there's a sense of empowerment to go, okay, man, this is my call. There's 10 other guys in the field, but I get to call the play. And of course I called a safety blitz. I was a free safety, and I wanted to sack the quarterback. But, those are good things. I think not forgetting where you came from, and the people that made you who you were. My other junior college baseball coach used to say, if you take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves. And so those are the things I've always tried to take with me. And matter of fact, I just moved into my house about a month ago, and I downsized, but in my exercise room, on one of the walls, I've got, all these sayings that some of the ones I said earlier, just on this wall. I got them in canvases just because those mean something to me. And when people come to my house, they ask me, what is that? I was like, well, that was Coach Roper, and that was my father-in-law, and that was what my wife said, and those kind of things, because I think those people in life are what make me who I am. And that's, again, like you said, it goes back to being just part of my story.
Absolutely. Chris, I appreciate you spending the time. I always like to at least give the opportunity for whoever comes on to promote. Maybe it's an initiative, the site, the team site, your personal profile, whatever it is that you'd like to put out there. If there's nothing, that's okay too. You don't have to, but I always like to give the opportunity so people can get in touch or learn more about Round Rock Express, whatever you'd like to promote.
Well, look, number one, it's look, we're a great company, and we're baseball, but we also do a lot of entertainment. So what we say is just, www.roundrockexpress.com, a chance to kind of see what we have going on with our baseball team, or what some of the other events that we're doing, the conference here lately. And, people want to follow me on my own, on Twitter is probably the best one, but I'm an Express Prez, and Twitter handle Express Prez. And, I try to put some good content out there. You talk about the personal brand that I have, look at one, it's it's to share our story and to make sure that people know what we've got going on here in town. And look, so there's some of my personal beliefs in the things I do. And at the end of the day, when I put my head on the pillow, I want to represent the Round Rock Express the best I can.
Absolutely. And for those college students and anyone that's in academia or parents that are actually capturing this, if you would like your students to learn, as Chris mentioned, to how do you share your story? How do you create your brand? Please feel free to reach out. The Talk Shop address is on your screen as we speak. And please feel free to reach out to Chris. He's already mentioned his handle, how to get to Round Rock Express on the website. All the information is right there. So Chris Almendarez, president of Round Rock Express, appreciate you sharing your insight with us. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Good seeing you, Matt.
You bet.